My sister left her daughter with me for a week until I discovered she was starved and abused, so I exposed the truth and took. In a small apartment in suburban Chicago, Rachel Miller sat drinking her morning coffee, gazing out the window at the quiet residential neighborhood. She lived a fulfilling life as a freelance graphic designer. While she wasn't without longing for marriage, she knew the comfort of living life at her own pace. Her living space on the first floor of the two-story apartment wasn't large, surrounded by cream-colored walls, but it was warmly decorated with art pieces and plants that she cherished. When her cell phone rang, Rachel was just working on sketches for a new project. Seeing Emily displayed on the screen, she smiled. She had always been close with her younger sister Emily since childhood. "Rachel, thanks for all your hard work." Emily's voice sounded a bit tense. "Actually, I have a favor to ask." "What is it? What's wrong?" Rachel set aside her sketchbook and leaned back in her chair. "Brian and I are going to Hawaii for a week. It's a company incentive trip, but could you watch Sophia? Mom is at a place in Florida, and there's no one else I can ask." Emily's marriage had been 6 months ago. Her new husband, Brian Johnson, was an investment consultant who apparently earned a high income. Rachel had only met him 2 or 3 times, but her first impression wasn't very good. She had been bothered by his cold handshake and his somewhat condescending way of speaking. However, if Emily seemed happy, that was enough for her. "Of course," Rachel answered immediately. "I'd be delighted to spend time with Sophia. When do you need me to start?" 5-year-old Sophia was special to Rachel. After Emily's first marriage fell apart and she was living alone with her daughter, Rachel had often helped care for them both. Sophia's father had left home when she was 2 years old and had been out of contact ever since. Rachel had watched over Sophia's growth as an aunt since the girl had started walking. "Tomorrow morning, I'll drive her over. Brian says he wants to come along to say hello too." Relief colored Emily's voice. "Thank you so much, Rachel. I'm so glad you're here for us." The next Sunday around 10 a.m., Emily's car stopped in front of the apartment. When Rachel looked down from her window, she could see Sophia in the back seat with a small pink backpack. She was looking down, staring intently at her hands placed on her knees. Waiting at the entrance, Rachel watched as Emily came up the stairs, holding Sophia's hand. Emily wore a bright blue dress and had her makeup perfectly applied as usual, but there was something tired about her expression. "Rachel." Emily hugged her sister. "Thank you so much." Rachel crouched down in front of Sophia. "Hello, Sophia. Let's have a wonderful time together." Sophia nodded slightly, but didn't make eye contact. Previously, she had been more active, and when she saw Rachel, she would have been the first to jump into her arms. But today, she was strangely quiet. "Be a good girl." Emily placed her hand on her daughter's shoulder. "Listen properly to what Aunt Rachel says. Don't be selfish." Just then, a car horn honked. Brian stuck his head out from the driver's seat and pointed at his wristwatch. Emily turned around frantically. "Oh, I have to go now. We need time to get to the airport." Emily kissed Sophia's cheek. "Be good. I'll come pick you up in a week." Rachel felt something was off. Brian didn't get out of the car or even call out to Sophia. In the past, Emily would have taken more time to say goodbye to her daughter. As Emily hurried down the stairs, Rachel hugged Sophia. The small body was stiff with tension. "Now, let's make this a fun week," Rachel said in the brightest voice she could manage. "What would you like to do?" Sophia nodded slightly, but her expression had lost the innocence it once had. On Monday morning, Rachel decided to prepare a special breakfast. While mixing pancake batter, she remembered the blueberries that Sophia used to love, took them from the freezer, and mixed them into the batter. As the sweet aroma filled the kitchen, watching the pancakes turn golden brown in the pan, Rachel was planning the week. They would go to the zoo, see a movie, and bake cookies together. It was sure to be a wonderful time. "Sophia, breakfast," Rachel called out cheerfully. Sophia came out of the guest room already dressed and with her hair neatly arranged. For a 5-year-old child, she was surprisingly well-groomed, and Rachel was impressed. When Sophia sat in the dining table chair, she placed both hands on her knees and straightened her back. Her posture was like an adult being interviewed. "Here we go. All ready." Rachel served the steaming pancakes on a plate and placed it in front of Sophia. "Blueberry pancakes. You used to love these, remember? Sophia stared at the pancakes, but didn't reach for her fork. Rachel brought maple syrup and butter and placed them on the table. Milk or orange juice? Which would you like? Sophia looked up with a troubled expression. Am I allowed to choose? Rachel was momentarily confused by that question. Of course. Choose whichever you like. Then, milk, please. Sophia's voice was small, with a tone as if she feared something. While Rachel was pouring the milk, Sophia stared intently at the pancakes. She was holding her fork but wasn't starting to eat. What's wrong? Don't they look good? Rachel asked worriedly. No, they look very delicious, Sophia answered hastily. May I eat them? Of course. Rachel laughed. I made them for you. When Sophia took a small bite, her eyes widened. They're delicious, she said in a whisper, as if eating something delicious was unusual. After breakfast, Rachel spread toys on the living room floor, dolls, blocks, colored pencils, picture books, all things that Sophia had enjoyed since she was little. Now, what shall we play with? Choose whatever you like. Rachel sat on the floor and encouraged Sophia. However, Sophia remained standing, looking at the toys as if they were museum exhibits. She stood with her hands clasped behind her back a step away. Sophia, what's wrong? May I play with this doll? Sophia pointed to a blonde doll. Of course, you can play with all of them. Really? I won't get in trouble. Rachel was puzzled. Why would you think you'd get in trouble? Toys are for playing with. Sophia picked up the doll and hugged it carefully, but even after that, she asked permission for everything. Before touching another doll, before stacking blocks, before drawing with colored pencils, for each action, as if she needed a permit. What a polite child, Rachel murmured to herself, but deep down, something bothered her. Was this simply politeness? In the afternoon, Sophia started fidgeting. She was shifting from foot to foot and holding her stomach. Rachel noticed and called out to her. Sophia, what's wrong? Does your stomach hurt? No, I'm fine, Sophia answered hastily, but she was clearly holding something in. Do you need to use the bathroom? Sophia blushed and nodded. May I go to the bathroom? Rachel was stunned. What? Of course. You can use the bathroom freely. You don't need permission. Really? You can go any time you want. Sophia ran to the bathroom. Watching her from behind, Rachel felt her chest tighten. A 5-year-old child asking permission to use the bathroom and clearly having been holding it in. In the evening, Rachel prepared a simple dinner, grilled cheese sandwiches and tomato soup, a menu that children would like. Dinner's ready. Sophia came to the table, but again placed her hands on her knees and just stared at the food. What's wrong? Aren't you hungry? I am hungry, Sophia answered quietly. But may I eat? This was the second time. Rachel took a deep breath. Sophia, here you can eat whenever you want to eat. You don't need permission. But if I'm not a good girl, you are a good girl. A very good girl, Rachel said gently. So, please eat without worry. That night, when Rachel tried to put Sophia to bed in the guest room, something strange happened again. After Rachel had tucked her in and said, "Good night," Sophia lay with her eyes wide open, staring at the ceiling. What's wrong? Can't you sleep? May I go to sleep? Sophia asked in a thin voice. Rachel was speechless. Did sleeping also require permission? Of course, Sophia. Go to sleep. I won't get in trouble? Why would you think you'd get in trouble? Sophia didn't answer. She just curled up small and turned to her side. Rachel gently kissed her forehead. Let's have another fun day tomorrow. After leaving the room, Rachel sat down on the living room sofa. Looking back over the day, there was a common thread in all of Sophia's behavior. She asked permission for everything, acting as if she feared punishment. This wasn't simple politeness, something was wrong. Her anxiety only grew. Tomorrow she would observe Sophia more carefully, and at the right moment, she would contact Emily. It must be some kind of misunderstanding. Telling herself this, Rachel went to sleep. The next day, Rachel decided to make a special dinner. Standing in the kitchen, she thought back over Sophia's behavior since yesterday. Too quiet, too obedient, acting as if she was afraid to have her own will. Tonight, she would make something heartwarming that the girl would like to help her relax even a little. Rachel chose beef stew, tender stewed beef and vegetables with rich brown sauce. It was the taste of memories from when their mother used to make it for them as children. Both Emily and Sophia should have loved this stew. She cut the beef into bite-sized pieces, coated them with flour, and carefully browned them. She sautéed onions until they were amber-colored, then added carrots and celery. She added a little red wine for aroma, then simmered slowly with tomato paste and beef stock. The stew, carefully prepared over 2 hours, filled the entire apartment with wonderful aromas. "Sophia, dinner will be ready soon," Rachel called out. It turned out very delicious. Sophia had been quietly reading a picture book in the living room. She carefully closed the book and returned it to its proper place before heading to the dining table. Even that meticulousness gave an impression unlike a 5-year-old child. Rachel spread a white tablecloth on the table and set it more carefully than usual. She filled deep plates generously with stew and served it with butter rolls and fresh salad. Sophia's portion was specially prepared with vegetables cut smaller for easy eating. She also prepared orange juice, making the table look like a restaurant. "Here's dinner," Rachel called out brightly, satisfied with how the meal had turned out. "I made it with a gentle flavor that you'd like." Sophia took her seat, but as always, she placed both hands on her knees and just stared at the stew. Faced with the steaming dish, she remained motionless like a statue. She didn't even reach for her spoon. Rachel sat in the opposite seat and took a bite of her own stew. It turned out delicious. "I'm sure you'll like it," she smiled at Sophia. However, Sophia showed no signs of eating. She just continued staring at the stew. Something like fear floated in her expression. "Sophia." Rachel put down her fork. "What's wrong? Does your stomach hurt?" Sophia shook her head. "No, I'm fine." "Then why aren't you eating?" Worry crept into Rachel's voice. "Doesn't it look good? Would you like to try a taste?" Sophia slowly looked up. In her eyes was a deep anxiety unlike anything Rachel had ever seen before. It was an expression as if she was waiting for something terrible to happen. "Aunt Rachel." Sophia's voice was trembling. "Am I allowed to eat today?" The moment those words echoed in the air, Rachel felt as if her breath had stopped. "Am I allowed to eat today?" A question as if eating was an act that required special permission, as if she was normally forbidden to eat. "Of course," Rachel answered with a trembling voice. "Of course you are. You can eat as much as you like." She stood up and moved to sit beside Sophia. Placing her hand on the small shoulder, she smiled gently. "Sophia, you're allowed to eat every day, any time. That's normal." At that moment, large tears overflowed from Sophia's eyes. As if a dam had burst, tears streamed down her cheeks. "Really?" Her voice was. "It's not punishment?" "Punishment?" That word grabbed Rachel's heart like a claw. A 5-year-old child thinking that eating was punishment. No, thinking that not eating was punishment. Sophia began crying aloud. Her small body shook as the emotions she had been holding back poured out all at once. Rachel immediately embraced Sophia. The small body was trembling like a bird. "It's okay. It's okay. Everything's going to be okay now. If I'm not a good girl, I don't get food," Sophia said through her tears. "Papa Brian says so. He says selfish children are like animals, so they should endure like animals." Rachel felt her blood run cold. Brian, Emily's new husband. He had been withholding food from a 5-year-old child. "Yesterday, I dropped a plate," Sophia continued, sniffling. "But Aunt Rachel gave me pancakes and I really didn't know if it was okay to eat them." "Sophia." Rachel cupped her face with both hands. "You didn't do anything wrong. Dropping a plate is an accident. Being deprived of meals for that is absolutely wrong. But Papa Brian said..." "Brian is wrong." Anger was contained in Rachel's voice, but she carefully modulated it to sound gentle to Sophia. "You have the right to eat 3 proper meals every day. That's your natural right as a child." Sophia shook her head. "But Mama says the same thing. She says, if I'm not a good girl, I can't grow up." Emily. Her sister was also complicit. Rachel's hands shook with anger. But now was the time to stay calm. She needed to heal Sophia's heart first so the child could feel safe. "Sophia, listen carefully." Rachel looked into her eyes. "You are a very good girl, but even if you make mistakes, you don't lose the right to eat. That's the most basic human right." "Really? Really?" "I promise." Rachel kissed Sophia's forehead. "From now on, for this whole week, you can eat as much as you want. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner. You can even have snacks." Hope lit up in Sophia's eyes. "Snacks too?" "Snacks too." Rachel smiled. "Ice cream, cookies, whatever you want to eat." Sophia began crying again, but this time they were tears of relief. Rachel held her while making a vow in her heart. She would never return this child to that house again, no matter what Emily and Brian said. Sophia's safety would be the top priority. "Now the stew is getting cold," Rachel said gently. "Let's eat together." Sophia slowly picked up her spoon and took a bite of stew. At that moment, a real smile appeared on her face, the innocent, bright smile of a 5-year-old child. "It's delicious," Sophia said from her heart. "Really delicious." The next day, Sophia was like a different person. After last night's tears, as if she had put down a heavy burden, her expression became peaceful. At the breakfast table, she put syrup on her pancakes for the first time on her own and said, "It's delicious," with a smile. Rachel was relieved by the change, but at the same time, the words she had heard last night wouldn't leave her head. "Sophia," Rachel called out gently about what you told me yesterday. "Could you tell me a little more? I want to protect you." Sophia nodded while drinking her milk. "Papa Brian is scary. After he married Mama, lots of rules were made." "What kind of rules?" "When I wake up in the morning, I have to greet Papa Brian first. But when he's in a bad mood, I can't talk to him. I can't leave food on my plate. But if I'm not good, no food. When I play with toys, I have to get permission. I can't cry. I can't laugh too loudly either." Rachel clenched her fists. This wasn't discipline. It was complete domination and abuse. Mama started saying the same things. Sophia continued sadly. "She used to be kind. After Papa Brian came, the way Mama looks at me changed." "How did it change?" "Before, when I fell down and cried, she would hug me. But now she says I don't like crybabies. Before, we used to make cookies together, but now she says children aren't allowed in the kitchen." Rachel's heart ached. She could clearly see how Emily had changed. In her desperate desire to please her new husband, she was sacrificing her own daughter. "Last week, I got in a fight with a friend at kindergarten," Sophia said in a small voice. "The teacher called Mama, and Mama was very angry. When I got home, Papa Brian said, 'Problem children don't get dinner,' and I couldn't eat anything that day." "All day?" "Yes. When I cried because I was hungry, he said, 'If you cry, we'll skip another day.'" Rachel stood up and turned toward the window. It was to hide her voice trembling with anger. Making a 5-year-old child fast for a full day was nothing but abuse. In the afternoon, while Sophia was napping, Rachel called Child Protective Services. The worker took notes with a serious expression and promised, "We'll start an investigation as soon as possible." Next, Rachel also contacted a lawyer to find out what procedures would be necessary to legally protect Sophia. Thursday evening, Rachel's cell phone rang. It was Emily. "Rachel." Emily's voice sounded a bit panicked. "I'm sorry this is sudden, but I'm coming to pick up Sophia tomorrow morning. Due to Brian's work, we're coming back earlier than planned." Rachel's heart jumped. "Tomorrow. We had agreed until Wednesday." "I know, but Brian says he has an important client meeting. He says he can't concentrate with Sophia around, so come pick her up early." Rachel looked at Sophia. She was watching TV while eating cookies, showing the innocent, childlike expression Rachel had seen for the first time in 3 days. "Sophia has been very good. Couldn't she stay a little longer?" "No. Brian is waiting. I'm coming to pick her up at 10 in the morning, so have her ready." After the call ended, Rachel approached Sophia. "Sophia," Mama called. "She's coming to pick you up tomorrow." The color drained from Sophia's face. She dropped the cookie she was holding and said in a trembling voice, "I have to go home already." "It looks that way, Aunt Rachel. Tears welled up in Sophia's eyes. I want to stay here. I don't want to go home. Why not? Rachel already knew the answer, but she wanted to hear it in Sophia's own words. Papa Brian will be angry. He'll definitely say I was a bad girl at Aunt Rachel's house. Then there will be punishment again. What kind of punishment? No food or being locked in my room. The worst is when Mama says, I don't need you anymore. Rachel hugged Sophia. It's okay, I'll protect you. That night, Sophia cried, I want to stay here. Rachel stayed by her side all night, stroking her hair and singing songs. But Sophia herself dimly sensed it too. Tomorrow, those days of fear would begin again. Friday morning, at exactly 10 a.m., Emily and Brian arrived. Rachel was waiting at the entrance, but Sophia was hiding in the guest room. Sophia, we're here to pick you up, Emily called out brightly, but there was no response. When Rachel went to the guest room, Sophia was curled up small in the corner of the bed. I'm scared, she said in a trembling voice. It's okay. Rachel picked up Sophia, but in her heart, she had already made her decision. She couldn't hand this child over. When they returned to the living room, Brian was looking at his wristwatch irritably. What's all this dawdling about? Get in the car right now. Sophia hid behind Rachel, trembling. Emily also said in a cold voice, Sophia, don't keep Papa Brian waiting. Hurry up. Wait a minute. Rachel stood up. I need to talk to you. Talk. Emily frowned. Sophia asks permission to eat. A 5-year-old child asks if it's okay to eat. This is abnormal. Brian's face turned cold. Of course she should. Children without discipline are the same as animals. Meals are a privilege, not a right. A privilege? Rachel's voice rose. Meals are a basic human right. Emily interjected. That's right, Rachel. Brian is correct. You don't have children, so you wouldn't understand, but modern children are spoiled too much. They need strict discipline. Rachel stared at her sister. This was brainwashing. Emily was completely under Brian's influence and didn't realize how abnormal her behavior was. Emily, you weren't like this before. You used to love Sophia. I still love her. That's exactly why I want to raise her properly. There was conviction in Emily's eyes. Frighteningly, she truly believed this. Brian stood up. Enough of this useless talk. Sophia, get in the car right now. Sophia started crying. Aunt Rachel, help me. At that moment, Rachel made her decision. I'm not giving Sophia back. What did you say? Emily raised her voice. I'm calling the police. This is abuse. Rachel took out her cell phone. Brian was furious. Abuse? Don't be ridiculous. This is proper discipline. What would a single woman like you understand? Brian was enraged, and Emily was crying and repeating, Rachel, what are you doing? But Rachel held Sophia in her arms and wouldn't give an inch. When the police officers and Child Protective Services workers arrived, the situation changed rapidly. Sophia was frightened at first, but encouraged by a kind female worker, she found the courage to talk about her experiences. Even when I'm hungry, if I'm not a good girl, I don't get food. When I cry, I get locked alone in my room. Though her voice was small, her testimony was decisive. Brian was arrested. In addition to child abuse charges, the investigation revealed investment fraud, and his true nature was exposed. Emily was questioned as an accomplice, but received a suspended sentence and was required to undergo counseling. Sophia was temporarily placed under Rachel's protection. For the first few weeks, she would wake up from nightmares in the middle of the night. But each time, Rachel gently held her and said, It's okay, I'm here. Sophia's heart healed little by little. 6 months later, Emily visited the apartment. Through counseling, she had come to understand how wrong she had been. Rachel, I'm sorry. Emily apologized through tears. I was the worst kind of mother. I couldn't protect Sophia. However, Sophia was still afraid of her mother. When Emily tried to approach, she would hide behind Rachel. She needs time, Rachel told her sister, at Sophia's pace. A year later, Rachel officially became Sophia's foster parent. When the judge announced approval in court, Sophia said for the first time, "Aunt Rachel, I love you." Rachel embraced her with tears in her eyes. More than blood ties, they had learned that love and protection were the true bonds of family. One night, when Rachel made beef stew for dinner, something happened. When Sophia sat at the table, she said, "Let's eat," with a beaming smile. Then she enthusiastically brought the spoon of stew to her mouth. "Delicious," Sophia laughed happily. "Aunt Rachel, let's eat together again tomorrow too." "Of course," Rachel smiled. "Let's eat together every day." Outside the window, snow had begun to fall, but inside the small apartment was wrapped in warm light. For the two of them, this was the beginning of a real family. Emily visited from time to time, slowly trying to repair her relationship with her daughter. But Sophia's safe place was here. Sophia is now 8 years old. At school, she's known as a bright and active child with many friends. Sometimes she remembers the old days, but having Rachel nearby gives her peace of mind. "Aunt Rachel," Sophia said one day, "when I grow up, I want to be like you. Someone who helps children in trouble." Rachel hugged her daughter. Sophia's future was bright and full of hope, and that was exactly why Rachel had continued to fight, to protect those she loved and, above all, to restore one child's smile. That was everything. As I sit here in my small apartment, the snow gently falling outside the window on this quiet winter evening, I can hardly believe how much my life has changed in just a few short years. Sophia is asleep in her room, our room really, since this cozy space has become truly hers as much as mine. The warm glow of the string lights we hung together last Christmas still twinkles on the wall, and the faint scent of the beef stew we shared for dinner lingers in the air. These simple things, once so ordinary to me, now fill my heart with a gratitude so profound it sometimes brings tears to my eyes. When I first realized what Sophia was enduring in that house, a rage unlike anything I'd ever felt consumed me. How could my own sister, Emily, the girl I grew up with, the one who used to braid my hair and share secrets late into the night, allow such cruelty to touch her daughter? And Brian. Thinking of him still tightens my chest. He stripped a 5-year-old child of her basic sense of safety, turning every meal, every playtime, every bedtime into a test of worthiness. The way Sophia asked in that tiny, trembling voice, "Am I allowed to eat today?" Those words will haunt me forever. They weren't just questions, they were proof of how deeply her spirit had been wounded. Yet beneath the anger was a bone-deep sorrow. Sorrow for the little girl who believed she had to earn the right to food, to sleep, to simply exist without fear. Sorrow for the sister I lost, not to distance, but to a toxic influence that twisted her love into something unrecognizable. And, if I'm honest, sorrow for the years I spent alone in this apartment, content with my independence but quietly longing for the kind of family I now have. I never imagined that family would come to me through pain and struggle. But here we are. Holding Sophia as she cried that night, promising her she would never go hungry again, something shifted inside me. It was no longer just protective instinct. It became a fierce, unwavering love that redefined everything I thought I knew about family. Blood ties mean nothing when they come with chains. True family is the one you choose, the one you fight for, the one you heal with day after day. Watching Sophia bloom has been the greatest gift of my life. The first time she poured syrup on her own pancakes without looking to me for permission. The first time she laughed loudly while playing without fear of punishment. The first time she ran to me after school bursting with stories instead of shrinking into silence. Each moment felt like a small miracle. She is bright, curious, kind, and resilient in a way that humbles me every single day. When she told me she wants to grow up to help children in trouble, just like I helped her, my heart swelled so much I thought it might burst. There are still hard days. Nightmares sometimes wake her, and she reaches for me in the dark. Emily's visits are cautious, tentative steps toward reconciliation, and while I hope for healing, I will never again prioritize adult feelings over Sophia's safety. But overall, our life is peaceful now, filled with school projects, weekend baking, movie nights curled under blankets, and the quiet joy of knowing she feels safe enough to be fully, unapologetically herself. I fought for this. I stood in that living room, holding a terrified child, and refused to let go, and I would do it all again in a heartbeat. Because Sophia's smile, the real one, bright and unafraid, is worth every battle. This little apartment may not be grand, but it is our sanctuary. Here, love isn't conditional, it's constant, warm and unbreakable. And for the first time in my life, I am not just surviving alone. I am building a family, one chosen, one fought for, one deeply, truly loved.